Oh, there he is. Bill, look at him. The Gunn father himself, Mr. Derrick Gunn, joining us, host, of course, the Sports Take with Derrick Gunn, with Rob Ellis. Gunner, joining us right now. What's up, Gunner?
What's up, my brothers?
It's great to see you, man. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. First, tell us, what do you guys got coming up on Sports Take later today?
Rob Ellis and I will be talking about everything pertinent coming out of the Eagles camp today. We are also taking a spin around the NFL by division in terms of who looks the strongest in the division and who looks the weakest. Today, we will focus on the AFC North.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Jam-packed division from top to bottom.
It certainly is. I know a lot of people have gotten a look behind the scenes of Kirk Cousins. You say NFC North?
AFC North.
AFC North. Never mind. Forget it.
We're going through the entire AFC first, and then coming back to the NFC. Of course, saving the Eagles in that division, NFC East for last. So it's like an 8-day journey.
Fantastic.
It's amazing. AFC North. You talk about Mike Tomlin, man. Has he ever had a losing record as a coach? I don't think so.
No. They finished last season. They won their last 4 straight. They finished 7-2. They were like 3-7 at one point, and they ran the table. And he's been there 16 years. He's never had a losing season. That's unheard of. But unfortunately, he's been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, lost 1. So, and if you know anything about the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, and I worked in that market for NBC for 10 years, they are very loyal to their people across the board. When you think about since 1969, they've only had Chuck Noll, Bill, what's his name? What was his name? Bill Cowher, and of course Tomlin as the head coaches. That's it. And I was there for the tail end of Chuck Noll's and the beginning of Bill Cowher's tenure. That's loyalty at its finest. You think about how many teams that have gone through more coaches in that than a span of 3 to 5 years. So it's phenomenal what that organization does top to bottom.
Gunner, we're trying to nitpick here a little bit, and that's what it feels like we're doing a lot of the time. I know, right? Come on. I know that's what it feels like with a lot of people trying to figure out like the holes in the Eagles right now, where the biggest problems are. And I don't think it's the biggest problem, but I think it's something that some people would like to see. And that doesn't mean that we don't want to see Jalen Hurts ever run a football. That's not, I want him to be as unique as he can be. But is it a priority for their new offensive coordinator, their new play caller, more importantly, for Brian Johnson to try somewhat to cut back on the amount of times that Jalen Hurts is trying to run free around the edge?
Yes, yes, and yes. The big question mark is, how do you do that without handcuffing his overall athleticism and effectiveness in his offense? There are times when that mental mechanism just kicks in, when a quarterback can feel pressure coming from one way or the other, steps up, doesn't see anything, and just takes off. It's a natural instinct. It's been a natural part of his game for so long. So how do you rein that in without taking away what makes Jalen Hurts what he is? You have to find a balance there. You look at what has happened with the likes of Lamar Jackson, prime example. He goes from being an MVP winner early on in his year, as much for his legs as for his arm when he was a 1,000-yard rusher, to missing significant time over the last couple of games. Yet he still parlayed that into an incredible contract, because they understand he is the franchise. So how do you do that? How do you and by the way, Lamar Jackson came out earlier this year and said, with the additions of wide receiver, we're going vertical more, which means it's going to take less off of him. So how do you do that with Jalen, especially him just turning 25? He's still young, and that's such a vital part of what he does, being able to use his lower body strength in the run game. That's hard. That's hard to do, and I can't wait to see how it happens, if it happens.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about earlier, D-Gun, is a way that maybe they can take some of this away from him would be throwing the ball to the running backs. Absolutely. Is that something you expect to see more of this year?
You didn't bring DeAndre Swift in here just to hold the clipboard. That's his game. More so than his running ability, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And I've said this on a number of platforms, I would put him in a slot at times. You got to use him on wheel routes, middle screens, outside screens. I would put him in spaces where he can use that athleticism and his wiggle to get up and down the field. I wouldn't bang him between the tackles. That's what you have Rashad Penny for. That's what you have Gainwell and Boston Scott for. Those guys can hammer it between the tackles. Swift, to me, is your home run hitter. Utilize him more so like a Christian McCaffrey or, Austin Eckler, somebody like that. Get them out in space. Let them do their thing. So, yes, that is a definitive way that you can take a lot of that pressure off of Jalen having to step up and run. Is swing that pass out to somebody like DeAndre Swift. And, of course, Boston Scott, Gainwell, and Penny, they're going to get the swing touches as well.
Gunner, a two-part question. First part, where are you? You don't have those fish I caught for you hanging in the background. What's going on there?
You mean those guppies I've seen you catch? I am right now huddled down in my wife's office.
Gotcha.
She doesn't know it. She's still upstairs.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I get ready upstairs. I said, I'm going to come down here and look at the house from a different perspective. I don't get to see.
You look much more intellectual with this.
All those books back there.
Yeah, right.
Those are all her books. That's only a small portion of her shelves here. These are all her books, and I guarantee you she's read most of them.
Copy that. Here's what I do actually want to ask you here. There are some position battles obviously going on here at training camp. That's what training camp is. Linebacker, safety, I guess technically right guard, but we already know that's been decided. Punter. What position battle are you watching the closest? What are you keeping the closest eye on when it comes to the position battles of training camp?
It has to be obvious. It has to be the linebacking position. You go out and get not one, but not two veteran linebackers. Everybody who watches the Eagles team knew even before the draft that linebacking was a weak link on this team. And they didn't address it until just a couple of days ago. And Howie went out and pulled a Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph. Now, to what degree will they be incorporated in this defense? That remains to be seen. We saw Myles Jack in the middle yesterday, obviously because Nakobe Dean's out. All of a sudden, people are saying, oh, there's a competition between Nakobe Dean. No, for right now, it is Nakobe Dean's position to win or lose. When you're talking about a high ankle sprain like that, you have to proceed with caution. Sometimes be overly cautious with that because you don't know if there's a tear in there. Excessive swelling, or when we talk about third degree MCL, ACL, that means it's a tear. So players that I've talked to, especially guys playing football, you have to take time with that thing because if not, it could come back and haunt you on and off all season long. It's just like the hamstring, so on and so forth. So for right now, Myles Jack is getting his trial and error right now because he's going to be counted on. I don't think that outside the will position is settled by any stretch of the imagination. I've been telling Rob Ellis forever, I thought Christian Ellis was going to push Morrow for that spot. Morrow 6'1", 215. Christian Ellis 6'3", 235. Now you go out and get two guys who are both bigger in height and weight. One of those guys could be competing for that outside slot as well. So I think the linebacking spot is the most intriguing because in the pass game last year, that's where they had the most problems defending the middle of the field and linebacker coverage. So let's see what these guys have. Both of them have injury histories. Both of them are proven vets. But let's see what they can do within this Sean Desai, Matt Patricia defense.
Yeah, Gunner, we got the first preseason game coming up on Saturday. So Eagles football is officially going to be back. But we've seen under Sirianni, they don't play a lot of their players in these preseason games. But assuming that who we want to see plays, who are you most excited to see get out there against other NFL talent on Saturday night?
Jalen Carter, and I would imagine I'd be shocked if he's out there more than a series or two. He's being counted on to start. Jalen Carter would be number one, and Nolan Smith would be number two. I want to see what these young men can do. Even when you have that controlled scrimmage against another team, that's what it is. It's controlled. You're going full board to a certain degree. I want to see these young men go full board from start of a play to the when the whistle's blown. We keep hearing all these accolades about Jalen Carter splitting the gap, blowing up the run plays, putting pressure on a quarterback. Haven't heard a whole lot about Nolan Smith and what he's been out there doing. But because he's understudying to Hassan Reddick, you can't pick much better than Hassan Reddick to be an understudy to. I want to see what his learning curve looks like. But I don't expect to see these guys out there much. When you look at the volume of injuries across the NFL, from training camp to these preseason games, I do believe, and we've seen this, more and more teams have kept their regulars out. But look at how many teams now are saying that their starters are going to play at least the first quarter. You got Carolina, you got Houston, you have the Jets, You know, you have teams that have so many new vital components. You have to get them some of those game reps to get that timing down. You know, there's debate down in Baltimore. Will you play Lamar Jackson that first game? Well, he's got 2 new wide receivers. If they're going to get that timing down, you're not going to get that deep ball timing down in practice. You know, you got to do it in game reps, you know, and it's more than just throwing the football. It's when you step to the line of scrimmage and when you look at a receiver and you just know which way he's going to break and the receiver knows where you're going to put the ball for him. Those are the little things that you have to get down as well. Now, you put Lamar Jackson out there, you're running a big risk, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see Lamar play a series or 2 in their first game for Baltimore.
Oh, I'll mark me down as surprised, but we'll see. We'll see how it would work out.
Right.
Gunnar, the other part of it here is Brian Johnson, when he was addressing the media yesterday, talked about he'll be on the field. He hasn't officially decided as to whether or not he's going to be on the field or in the booth while he's calling plays for this Eagles offense. His first time as the offensive coordinator in the NFL and play caller. From offensive coordinators that you got to know over the years, Marty Morningwake, Brad Childress, whoever it might be, obviously Andy Reid, play caller. He's going to be on the field as a head coach. But is there any advantage to being on the field versus in the booth and in the booth versus on the field?
For a lot of coordinators, it's about feel. Some say they get a better feel for the game down there close to the action. Others say they get a better perspective up from up top. You know, a lot of coordinators want to have hands-on and verbal conversations with the people they're directing. You know, they don't want the message to be sent second tier, because look at the volume of seconds that are wasted when you go from one guy to the person and getting the play called in a lot of times, or when those players come to the sideline. Tell me what you saw. Tell me what you liked about it. Tell me what you didn't like about it. You know, and of course, nowadays, how many games do we watch where all of a sudden the headsets go dead, especially if you're the visiting team in somebody's stadium? So you eliminate that element as well. You sit there with your quarterback or your wide receiver momentarily. You look at the charts that are constantly coming down, the bird's eye view of the pictures, and you get a better perspective. Okay, if we run this again, whether it's later in this quarter, next quarter, here's what I want you to do. You know, break it in instead of break it out. You know, instead of going to this primary receiver, if you see the safety come down immediately, look over the middle for the tight end or slot receiver, so on and so forth. Those few seconds that you have, those extra seconds of conversation are so vital in a game as fast as the game moves nowadays.
Yeah, and I got a tough question for you, D-Gun. We saw Jalen Hurts take such an incredible leap from 2021 to 2022. And we know how much of a tireless worker this guy is, how much he wants to improve. What element of his game, and again, we're probably nitpicking here, but what element of his game would you like to see him improve going into 2023?
You know, I've been asked that question, Bill, so many times, and I'm going to give you the same answer I've given everybody else. I honestly don't know, because when you look at the improvements that he's made from one year to the next to finish a second, even though he missed 2 games, finished second in the MVP voting, tells you how far he's come. And I've also said consistently, he could play the same game this year as he did last year, and it will still be good enough to get this team to a Super Bowl. Now, the road is much tougher when you look at who they're stacked up against, especially that 5-game stretch. You know, health is a big factor, in navigating through this much tougher schedule is huge as well. But Jalen Hurts can play the exact same game, and that's still good enough to be one of the most talked about players in the NFL. Only Jalen Hurts, Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni know exactly what they want him to work on, whether it's staying in the pocket a little bit longer. And if you look at his pocket numbers from last season, they were one of the best in the NFL, being a pocket passer. Is it staying home a little bit more? Is it reading defenses maybe a little bit better, stepping to the line and calling audibles a little bit better, deciphering what you're saying a little bit more, you know, because there weren't many flaws in his game. You know, people keep talking about, well, he only threw for 22 touchdowns. He didn't need to throw for any more. He ran for 13. He accounted for 35 touchdowns. What else do you want from this young man? So, honestly, I don't know. That's a difficult question to answer right now. Only time will tell. The only way we're going to find out is when they hit the ground running for real, and if we start to notice little nuances that we didn't see. That's the only way we know. They know on the inside what they want him to do, but we're not going to know that until they want us to know that, and we're not going to know until game times.
Yeah, I loved when they asked Hurts about, well, what do you want to improve on? And he just gave that little grin. He ain't telling anybody.
Yeah, they're not telling. Why would you tip your hand? It's such a secretive league now. When you think about how limited access media has just to watch practice now. First of all, he had a practice yesterday that went, 79 minutes? Are you kidding me? 79 minutes? You can barely work up a sweat. You're barely doing You're barely doing calisthenics and position drills in 79 minutes, but it worked for them. And because of the new collective bargaining agreement, it has to work for everybody across the NFL. That man's not going to tip his hand and give somebody else some inside information he doesn't want you to know.
Gunner, you saw the top 100 lists just off the top right here. Devontae Smith, Darius Slay-Hassan, Reddick, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
All have a good chance of being on that list again next year, right?
Yep.
Jason Kelsey, assuming it comes back, why not? Let's get crazy. He'll be back. Is there a name not on that list this year with the Philadelphia Eagles? Is there a name that you think will be on this list next year? Jalen Hurts, of course, snubbed last year. Now he's number 3.
Right.
Any name on the Eagles right now that you think has a season in the upcoming year here in 2023 that will put him on this list next year?
Yeah, James Bradberry should have been on that list.
Ooh,
okay. I think Bradberry should have been on that list before Slay. And that's not a knock against Slay. I thought Bradberry was a much more consistent player from start to finish. If you looked at Slay's season, it was up and down, and it started to tail off, especially in the latter part of the season. James Bradberry was consistently matched up against top receivers, passes defended, so on and so forth. I thought it was a glaring omission not to put him on that particular list. And I think if he continues to do what he did last year, there's no way he's not going to be on that list. You know, the funny thing about that list, and I love telling this story, people get so jacked up about that list, and people forget it's basically a popularity list, okay? It's a list that's voted on by the players. Now, here's the discrepancy in the list, because I had a friend who was a part of the contingent and had to go around to different NFL teams and get the players to vote. You go to one team, you're scratching tooth and nail to get 15 players to vote, and another team might have 40 players to vote. So which way is the voting going to be slanted? You know, so it's an imbalance in terms of partiality, in terms of who makes that list. You know, it's great conversation for guys like us because of what we do, but what if you took the list out of the hands of the players and let, you know, the guys that vote for the NFL Hall of Fame or a selected group of national panel members to vote for it, how different that list would look in terms of jockeying for a position, and who was out, who might be in, compared to who's in and who might be out.
Wow, look at you knowing the analytics of the list. That's pretty incredible. Are you saying you wouldn't have Jalen Hurts in the top 10? What are you saying?
Oh, you talking to me? You know I'm putting Jalen Hurts on the top of that list. You know. You look, Farzi, don't let the espresso go to your head, my brother. Don't let those multiple espressos go to your head, man.
I've only had one. I've only had one so far today, my friend. This is all natural.
No, it's not, because I sat next to you. Anybody who has as much energy as you have this early in the morning is a multiple espresso guy. I will never touch another espresso. My wife tried to kill me with an espresso like 20-something years ago. I was shaking for like 8 hours like this. That'll never happen again. So I know you jacked up on espresso this morning, man.
That's one of the books. I see the title, How to Kill Your Husband with Espresso. It's pretty great. It's a great book. It's a great how-to for dummies. It's great.
Yeah, we're talking about Jalen Hurts ranked as number 3 on the NFL Top 100. How does he get left off of the Pro Football Focus top 50 players? They put 6 quarterbacks on that list, and none of them are named Jalen Hurts.
It's the ongoing Negadelphia mentality. I've said this jokingly for years, that for whatever reason, and all the time that I've been in this market, it just makes me chuckle, and it perplexes me how much disrespect Philadelphia gets for a lot of different things. You know, you're going to tell me there's 6 quarterbacks in the NFL right now better than Jalen? It's debatable. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert's not better than him. You know, Justin Herbert has a cannon for an arm, but he's not a better overall quarterback than Jalen Hurts right now. Who else you putting on that list? I mean, think Lamar Jackson? No. You know, Lamar Jackson's a phenomenal athlete, but I'm not putting him on that list ahead of Jalen Hurts. So go up and down the list. You're gonna tell me there's 6 quarterbacks right now? Dak Prescott? Heck no. Then just go up and down the NFC. Just, you know, I think Kirk Cousins is one of the best regular season quarterbacks that ever lived. All of a sudden, he just becomes a chameleon. He fades into the scenery when it comes playoff time. Who else? Derrick Carr, another great regular season quarterback. What's he done in the playoffs? Okay. That's what I'm saying. Those lists are such partial lists. I don't pay much attention to them. Again, that's conversation fodder. It gets under our skin, and rightfully so. People here, we're going to defend our athletes. We're going to defend our individuals. Jalen Hurts' body of work speaks for itself, what he did in 2022.
Gunner, a couple more for you. I got two that are fun ones, but one last one I got to ask you. I don't want to talk to the analyst, Derrick Gunn. I want to talk to the reporter, Derrick Gunn.
Yes, Mr. Farzi.
Howie Roseman's always meddling. He's always meddling. And then when I say that, I mean that in a good sense. But he always likes to go out there and make that acquisition. Obviously, he's just got 2 linebackers. Barring injury, is Howie done? Are you hearing if Howie Roseman is kicking the tires on anything in particular more so than he usually kicks the tires? Is Howie Roseman set to make another deal?
No, he's not done. I'm not going to sit here and say he's set to make another deal, but he's looking and watching closely to see what they need to add in terms of depth. Howie doesn't. I've told Howie, I said, do you ever sleep, or do you just hang up upside down like a bat and just recharge and then go about your business? The man's wheels never stop spinning. He's always thinking about something. Yes, he's looking at whatever he can do to strengthen this team. He's going to do it. Is there another deal coming? I cannot sit here definitively as we sit here right now and tell you yes, but I will tell you this. Don't be surprised if they identify something real quick before training camp is over that they need to address, whether it's the safety, whether it's even to look at the receiving position. They're going to go out and do it. If they can fit it under the cap. I mean, Howie is a master at getting veteran players in here on cheap deals for 1 year. Okay? So I fully expect Howie to be out there looking, talking to people, and deciding, do we need this? They don't want to jump the gun too soon because you have to let certain people develop. I only bring up the name because he's a young player, Reed Blankenship. You can't get too skittish about him because he went through the growing pains last year. He made some good plays, made some mistakes. Now the position is his to win or lose. It's his term. What's that learning curve like for him now? We're going to find out. They're not going to jump too soon, but I guarantee you, Howie Roseman is talking to a lot of people. He's got a chart, pluses and minuses, talking to his coaches. What do we need to do? That's all I can tell you right now, Mr. Farzetta.
Easy enough. Bill, anything else for the great Derrick Gunn?
Yeah, so D-Gun, we know this team is stacked on paper. They're on paper the best team in the NFC East. But no team has repeated as an NFC East champ in almost 20 years. If there's going to be an NFC East team that knocks off the Eagles, who you scared of? Who do you think it's going to be?
I would have to say Dallas, but it's going to be interesting with Mike McCarthy calling the plays. I think, say what you want to say about Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks stretches the field. Even at this stage of his career, he can still stretch the field. You put him out there with CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. I mean, I'm really interested to see what happens down in New Orleans. I think Derek Carr, the Saints had quarterback carousel last year. I think if the Saints get Kareem Hunt, that's a great story about how Kareem Hunt yesterday, before he even started working out for the Saints, gets a call from the Colts, and they say, we're offering you more money. He does his workout, jumps on a plane, and goes to Indy. I think Anthony Barr on that defense is going to be – I think Anthony Barr has lost a little something, but I still think Anthony Barr is going to be a great addition to that defense. I look at the Saints. I think the Saints could be a problem. I think Detroit offensively is going to be an explosive offense, and they've gone out and spent some money and drafted on defense to make that defense a little better. Let's see, who else would I consider? Now people don't want to hear this. If the Niners can keep Brock Purdy healthy, I want to see the rematch, and we're going to see it in the regular season, but I want to see it in the playoff format. I want to see the rematch between the 49ers and the Eagles, because I think the 49ers are loaded. I think with that Shanahan offense, pieces constantly moving. They don't throw a lot of deep passes, but they kill you with the over-the-middle stuff. Christian McCaffrey is the best Swiss Army knife offensive weapon in the NFL. So if I'm stacking them up, I would put 49ers, Dallas, and then New Orleans.
I would absolutely love to see the Eagles beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game again, and have it be like on the last second play and just watch the 49ers fans cry and cry and cry. Gunner, two quick ones for you here. Okay. All right. Yesterday, these names came up as far as trick plays could go. All right, from Brian Johnson. Okay. Who do you want to see get the football? Jalen Carter, Jordan Mailata, Darius Slay, or Fletcher Cox? Who would you call a play for? Derrick Gunn, offensive play caller.
I would say Darius Slay. I think he's athletic enough to get one or two offensive plays in him. You know, I would like to see, you know, if he has moves in open space, if he could catch the ball, if he's willing to lower his shoulder, take a hit, take somebody head on. You know, I heard you guys earlier talking about Mailata, and that's an obvious choice. So I stayed away from Mailata because I heard you guys. Can you imagine giving Mailata the football inside the 5-yard line? See, that's being a defender, especially a safety or a cornerback, has to make a definitive business decision. Do I try to square up on this guy, or am I going to see a chiropractor tomorrow morning? You know, Mailata, I'm doing the Matador Olay tackle. I'm going to give it a gallant effort, but I'm not hitting him head on. I've got to hit him on an angle. And if I can't knock him off his balance on an angle, hey, it wasn't meant to be. You know, there's just some things in history that just aren't meant to be. And me taking down Jordan Mailata head on, from my perspective, is not meant to be. All right. But I would love to see Darius Slay play an offensive play to see what he can do.
I love the sound bites. I'd love to hear the sound bites after.
Oh, my goodness. Especially if it's a big gainer, him talking trash. Oh, my goodness.
And then last one for me. Bill, I don't know if you have anything else, but last one for me. You don't have to show us, Gunner. You don't have to show us. But what is your lock screen?
On my computer?
On your phone. On your phone.
Oh,
just like Jalen Hurts walking off in the Super Bowl. What's your lock screen? Walking off the JAKIB Media postgame set after the Super Bowl next to Seth Joyner. What do you? See? You and me, bud. We got the wives. We know what we're doing.
Look at all those Twitter notifications he's got. Look at all those X notifications. Everybody hitting up D Gunn.
Look, man, I've been married to this. I've been married to this lady for a long time. We dated 4 years before we got married. Man, she's my heart. You know, she drives me crazy. She's always on me. I said, you know what? I'm a grown man, aren't I? You know,
yeah.
You know, but, you know, she'll still ask me occasionally, what is wrong with you? I said, I don't know. You've been married to me all these decades. I can't figure. Why are you asking me? I can't figure it out. I have no. I told him when we got married, I have no intentions of growing up. I didn't lie to you. I'm not gonna. I don't mentally. I'm not gonna grow up. Now that I have grandkids, I have no reason to grow up.
Yeah, she's gonna kill you when she finds out you're in her office, though.
Now she's on the other side of the house upstairs. I'm safe.
Oh, she's in the East Wing. You're in the West Wing, right?
The funny thing is, you never know when she's watching the show. She doesn't have time to watch it daily, but she's always watching when I least expect her to watch. I'll say something, and she'll go, "Really? Really? I'm like, you're watching?" You know. So I don't know. I doubt if she's watching right now, but every now and then she'll pop on, and then when I get off the show, she'll give me her critique.
That's always good. Come home to the critics. Gunner, obviously, you guys do a great job every single day. You and Rob Ellis on Sports Take. You guys are coming up from 12 to 3 today, so make sure you guys check that out right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel for AFC North preview.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Great catching up, Gunner. Thanks so much.
Likewise, guys. You guys have a great day.
The Gunfather himself, Derrick Gunn, joining us right there on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Stay tuned. Of course, Sports Day coming up just a little bit later today. Bill Calarulo, you'll be back with me coming up in a minute. As we do what Jody Mack likes to say, Bill, put a bow on the show. We'll be back in a few.